if you know how to turn something that is not funny into funny, and that can be possible. And I feel that you have shown that as well. My question is, before coming to that funny part, the biggest challenge is, okay, to find a story and then turning it into funny. So how was your approach? How did you initially find this story? And when you found this story, was it funny immediately, or did you have to do something to find the funny in it?
Sure. So before answering that question, whatever that you said about humorous speech being the hardest contest, to be honest, all the contests are hardest for me. But what you said was true, because they say humor is a serious business.
Yeah.
Because it's really difficult to make people laugh. But I believe the moment we understand the funny in our day-to-day lives, humor becomes easier.
Right.
So humor is hard until we find the funny in our lives. So I was able to do that a lot of times. So whenever I look back at my life, all the failures that I had, all the embarrassments that I had, all the mistakes that I did, whenever I look back, I always laugh at it. I don't know why I always laugh at it. Okay. I think that helped me to look my life in a funny way. And it is because of that I have a lot of stories. Now, to answer your question, how did I come up with the story for my speech and how I thought that it would be funny is, I have a list of stories which I think are really funny.
Okay.
So whenever I sit to write a humorous speech, I always go back to the list of stories and I'll try to find a story that I can share. To be honest, last year, one of the story that I used was not the first story that I wanted to start the speech with. The first story was about something that happened in Thailand. 5 of us went as friends. And the problem was, it was an 18+ story. So I tried my best to make it a PG-13 version, but I find it really difficult. And once we have a friend set in Toastmasters, some of us in the Division D, we went to Bali. So we used to get together every now and then. So whenever we have this stayovers, we used to have this session called Sharing Embarrassing Stories.
Okay.
So everyone has to come up with some embarrassing story that happened to them. So once we were meeting up and we have this session and I shared a story.
Okay.
Everyone enjoyed it. Everyone laughed at it and they said, like, why don't you use it for a humorous speech? I think that's how you can find out a funny speech.
Okay.
You should look back in your life, see all the embarrassments, failures, mistakes, the stupid things that you did, and start to share that with the people around you. And then if the people laugh, then it's a funny story.
Yeah.
I think that's how I can identify the funny stories, and that's how I came up with the story. But I always believe that there are a lot of ways to come up with humorous speech. I saw your speech last time and I used to wonder, how did you come up with the speech idea? What was the starting point for you to come up with that speech idea?
For me, I stick to a mantra. The mantra is, it was a quote by Charlie Chaplin. He said, life is a tragedy in close-up and comedy in long shot. What that means is, when something happens to you immediately, it's tragic. You can call it an accident, a misfortune. As it happens, you don't laugh at it.
True.
But when a few months or years down the line, you turn around and look back at it, or speak to your friends, like you said, now you find the funny part of that tragedy. So for me, the key was to find the tragedy that happened in my life. Because if you look at the humorous speeches, I found it very challenging to find a humorous speech that was not tragedy. So if you look at the last 4 years, yours, mine, and then there was Ravi's, and then Tarindu's before that, all these were tragedies. So that's where I found my story, a tragedy, which happened when I tried to steal my dad's car. So that's how it started. And then I had to write the speech and find the funny in it. And that was pretty challenging. And I don't know how it happened to you. So was it the same for you? Did you find, what was your approach to finding a story? And from that point onwards, how was your process into finding the funny in that story?
So yeah, when it comes to the story that I used, I know it's a funny story, and in a way that I was a bit lucky with the story because the entire thing that I shared really happened, and that story itself had a lot of twists and turns. But in order for me to bring out the humor in it, I have to structure it in a way to reveal those suspenses and twists and turns in a certain way.
Okay.
So, for example, in my speech, it was all about me sending a message to a girl,
Yeah.
thinking that it's girl's phone number, but it was her father's phone number. So, if I have revealed that earlier itself, saying that okay, I got a phone number, but it wasn't the girl's one, but it was her father's one, and then I send a message, it won't work. So I need to first tell that I've sent this message thinking that it was a girl's number,
Right.
but later that I realized it was her father's number. So
Okay.
throughout the entire story that I built, I have to make some decisions to reveal the suspense or the punchlines after the setups in the right way. The twist and turn should be revealed in the right way. So for that, I have tried a lot to build that story. But apart from that, I believe that my story had all the twists and turns, so it made my job easier to bring humor into the story.
Okay.
Now, having said that, I also had to look into places and place some humor as well, because whenever we think about the things that happens in our life, normally things don't happen in a dramatic way.
Yeah.
So we have to put in some elements, we have to create some exaggerations to make it funny.
Life is not a speech.
Yeah, it happens as it is, right? So, and it's not as interesting as you
Yeah.
speak on the stage.
Yeah.
So to make it interesting, I had to put a lot of things, and I also, when I built the story, I realized some places were so flat. There was nothing funny in it when I explained the story. So for those places, I had to deliberately bring in humor. So those are the places I note down, and I always think and how can I bring in the humor, and that's how I created the humor. Now, was it the same for you? Like your story, you felt like already had all the humor in it, or you after you started scripting the speech, you put that humor there?
So mine, in essence, was a true story. I tried to drive my dad's car not once but multiple times, and multiple times I've knocked my dad's car. So it was a true story, and the events surrounding it, most of it was true as well. But there were some incidents that I had to insert, and I would call it fiction. And that's the thing with script writing. And at one point, I think you're extremely lucky to have found a story that exactly happened like that.
True.
But I feel when I write speeches, there is an element of fiction that I have to add. So, for example, the dog part, I don't know whether you remember the dog part.
Yes, I
There is a
remember.
dog in my story where I'm driving the car. The car is heading towards the gate, and there is this dog behind the gate. I definitely knocked my car in my neighbor's property, but the dog was never there. So I thought, a dog will be a brilliant idea because the audience always almost connect with these cute animals, dogs and cats. So I brought that dog in and I placed it there, and that was fictional. So yes, there was an element of truth, but I had to add fiction to there as well. So in your speech, you said that everything happened as it happened.
Yes.
And there were characters as well in your speech, and there were some pretty strong characters, like, Stella's father was a very strong character there. And he was the most prominent character after Adhyana. So how important was it? I know that your story was true, but how important was it for you to build those characters? So did you use the natural features those characters had, or did you have to use fiction?
So yeah, I had to use some fictions, but one thing is, like, I always, until this point, I used to tell I lied. But you gave a really nice word to that. It's called fiction now. So I think fiction is a really nice word. I think I have used a bit of fiction as well. Now, when it comes to characterizations, I think characterizations are very important in a speech, especially in a humorous speech, because a humorous character can create the laughter. So sometimes people used to come and tell me like, I have a story, it's really funny, but people are not laughing at it. So I always think some things will be funny to you because you know everything about the story,
Okay.
right? For example, let's say you have a friend who is very funny. So when that friend tells something, you will automatically laugh. But the moment you talk about that to someone else, they won't laugh because they don't know your friend.
Yeah.
Unless you give the characterization of that friend to the person who is listening to you, they won't understand the way that they spoke. So it won't be funny to them. So for that, I had to bring in the characterizations. So especially for Adyanna and also for Stella's father specifically. So there was a point where I say, so I got to know that it is not Stella's phone number, but her father's phone number. So I sent the message to her father.
Yeah.
When I revealed that, I didn't get the laughter much from the audience. So I had to bring in a characterization. So then I said, so I sent a message to a 45-year-old uncle.
All right.
That 45-year-old uncle is the characterization that I gave for the audience. So that audience now remember a 45-year-old uncle, and then they laugh.
That was intentional.
Yeah, intentional. So that small type of characterizations really help people to make it funny, like find it funny.
Yeah.
So,
So you said, I mean, let's take a step back now, because you spoke about Stella's father, and that reminded me of the technique that you spoke about earlier, surprise. So how did you use this technique in your speech to bring that funny?
Especially for Stella's father, as I said, like this part itself was a setup and punch, right? I was always talking about now it is being Stella's phone number. The moment I reveal now it is not her phone number, her father's phone number, that was a surprise.
Okay.
And the second surprise, I don't think it's a surprise, but it's something that I have to reiterate, because when I say it was her father's phone number, it doesn't give a visual cue to the audience how the father will look like. So for that, I have to bring in the 45-year-old uncle part. That also a surprise. At the same time, is give them the visualization as well. So when it comes to the setup and punchline, where the punchline is a surprise, there's something called a tag as well, right? So which follows after the punch.
Yeah.
So this was more like the tag. The 45-year-old uncle was like more like a tag, but that also act as a bit of a surprise.
Right.
So that's how I built that. But something that I would say is like it's something that technical, but it's rather a trial and error.
Right.
Yeah, I tried to say this to a few people, and I saw whether they are laughing at it, and then only I say, okay, this will work.
Okay.
So that's how it goes. Now, when it comes to your speech, you also had a lot of characters. For example, your father was there, your mother was there, your neighbor was there.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the characterizations for that? And how did you find the funny on those characterizations?
Yeah. So before that, I think we are talking a lot about our speeches. If someone has not watched our speech, it might be challenging for them to understand it. So if you're finding it challenging, just watch this podcast and then learn. And this is what the learning process is. It's like studying for your exams. You read, you watch videos, and you get these inspirations. And it is through these inspirations your knowledge comes and it turns into action. So yes, these inspirations are very important. You should watch videos, you should read books, you should try to understand this, the structure of comedy. But be very careful not to go to these inspirations before you have exhausted your creative process. Because for me, the most important part of contesting is to be able to grow from one phase to another. It's not merely to win the contest. Because when you grow as a speaker, you learn from your mistakes, you are able to refine it, and then you are able to check it with the audience, and then you're able to grow from phase to phase. But when you copy and paste, we know that there's no growth.
Yeah.
So yes, inspirations are important, but let's not turn to them before you write your speech like you want to copy and paste from an inspiration into your speech. But saying that, what I've heard from many Toastmasters, around is that the message in your speech is not very important in humorous speeches.
Yeah.
Most Toastmasters say that, and some say you should have a message as well. How is that for you? Do you think the message is important for a humorous speech or what?
Yeah, so I'll start with this one, right? So in the first few years I contested, I didn't look at the judges' ballot sheet. I thought if I can make people laugh, then I'll win. But it didn't happen the way it is. Then I looked at the ballot sheet and then I realized there are a lot of things. And that's when I realized it is not the person who gets the highest laughters win, but it is the person who have a complete speech that wins. And even if you look at the contest, our contest, the final one, I still believe that my speech was not the funniest one.
Right.
There are a lot of speeches, and I absolutely loved one of the speeches. It was so hilarious. But what I felt and what I learned from your speech was that your speech was a complete speech. It has humor, it has message, it has a proper structure, everything was there. And as I said, your speech was something that I referred a lot of time, and it is because of that I realized that I had to bring in a message.
Right.
But at the same time, I thought I should not bring in a very deep message because then I have to explain it and it will dilute the entire humor. And one other conscious decision that I made when I write the speech is, most of the time we all come up with a very funny story. So we tell that story, and towards the end we try to tell a message. And when we do that, it will look forced.
Right.
Right? Now you are forcing a message. And it is because of that I've decided when I write my speech, I'm going to plant my message from the beginning itself.
Right.
So beginning, I'm going to tell what I'm going to talk about so that the story will make sense. Towards the end, I can connect it and conclude. So at the beginning itself, I'm saying like, sometimes our stupidest mistakes can become the stories we cherish. That's the essence of my speech, and I am planting it right before. Then the story will not look forced, or the message will not look forced. So that's something that I consciously did. So to answer your question, is message important in a speech? I believe there should be a value to the audience because that is in the ballot sheet and the judges are going to mark for that.
Yeah.
So you have to bring in the value. You should not always focus on the humor. And that's something that I learned from your speech as well, right? It should be a complete speech. It's a humorous speech contest,
right,
not a humor contest.
Right.
That's my take on it. Now, my question is that message and your speech, did you really come up with a funny story and brought in the message? Because I struggled so much because I had a really funny story. To bring in the message, I had to work a lot.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Yeah. So my question to you is, like, as I said, I referred a lot because your speech was a complete speech. How did you come up with the message in that speech? Did you have that message right when you started the speech itself? What was the process?
Yeah. So my approach to humorous speech is slightly different. The way I approach ISC is different. The way I approach humorous speech is different. So for ISC, the message sometimes is at its core, and sometimes it comes from the story, but it plays a huge role. And for the humorous speech, the message is important. But like you said, there is a column in the ballot sheet where you're marked for the structure and the value, which means you have to give the audience something. But how I approach it is, for me in humorous speeches, two things are very important. One, the storyline. The storyline should be intact and it should flow logically and emotionally as well. And the humor, right? There should be recurring humor, like at least for every 30 seconds, there should be a laughter. So I was very meticulous in trying to turn every sentence into a setup and punchline. And it kind of worked in my humorous speech. Like, towards the latter part of my speech, I was getting spontaneous laughters. But the message was derived from the storyline for this particular speech. So I made sure that the logic and emotions are intact. There was a connection. So I knew when the storyline is intact, I can definitely derive a message. So it is from the storyline, which is I'm committing a mistake, and my father, who is the owner of the car, despite the tragedy I've committed, he decides to forgive me and forget about what happened. So that was the message: forgive and forget. I started with that. I started the opening was that, and then I ended with that. So yes, for me, message is important, but I don't necessarily start with the message, especially when it comes to humorous speeches, because for me, the storyline and the humor is important.
To be honest, like I'm not someone who like to tell so much message because I don't have much messages to tell as well. So I always start with a story. So when it comes to this particular story that I had, I know that I have a good story to tell. I was struggling to find a message in it. I think in the first, 10, 12 version of the story, I didn't have a message. But I did something after that that really helped me was I asked myself, why am I sharing this story? And what did I get from this sharing this story? Like, what did I get from this experience? So that gave me an idea of what I can give to the audience. So end of the day, I think this is something that we need to see as well. Like when we write a speech and when we tell a story, we need to ask ourselves why we are sharing this story and what I have learned from that story. And these two questions can, I think, give us the message or the value that we can give for the audience. I think that's how I found out that message.
Yeah, and in your speech, one of the most prominent factors was that you're self-deprecating yourself. And self-deprecation is something that is very important for humor.
True.
But there is also a thin line between self-deprecating and humiliating yourself. So how did you achieve that so well in your speech? And how important do you think is self-deprecation in humorous speeches?
Now, whenever we try to create humor, it's really difficult to create humor without offending people. But self-deprecating humor is the only form of humor where you can make others laugh without offending anyone. It's always safe. And one of the issue with most people is that, as you said, there is a line, right? But they keep their line so low that they don't even talk about their insecurities and about their vulnerabilities because they feel like the people will judge them or laugh at them. But what I've learned while doing these humorous speech contests is that sharing our vulnerability or our insecurities makes us so close to the audience. Because every single human in the world have those insecurities, even though they don't speak about that, have those vulnerabilities. The moment someone shares it on the stage, they will connect with it. So being vulnerable on stage is actually a superpower which will allow us to connect to the audience. So self-deprecation is one way to show that vulnerability. And the other thing is something that this line is actually something that I got from one of my friends is, we think when we are doing self-deprecation humor, we think that people are laughing at us. It is not the case. When you do self-deprecating humor, people are laughing with us. So that's one of the things that I've learned. So we can laugh together when you make fun of you. And one thing that I realized is the people who use self-deprecating humor are the most confident people in the world, because I have to be confident about my insecurity to share that with the audience. So to be self-deprecating, you should have the confidence in you and you should be okay with who you are. And also you should not think too much about it as well, because what I feel is nobody cares, to be honest. We sometimes think highly of us, but nobody cares about that. So the moment you start to share your vulnerabilities, all your mistakes and everything, it will be so much fun. So I think that's what self-deprecating humor does, and it creates laughter as well. And to the point you guys were like, we have to draw the line, is that now if it's something that is that will destroy the image that you have, or it will if it's something that makes the audience go, oh my god, why is he doing this, right? So I think if it doesn't bring that kind of a reaction from the audience, I think it's always okay to use the self-deprecating humor.
Right.
And I think you have also used the self-deprecation because no humorous speeches can go without self-deprecating humor. And what is your take on that self-deprecation?
So yeah, so like you said, I agree with all that you said about self-deprecation, right? The connection the audience will make with you, the audience laugh with you instead of laughing at you. And I think the most important thing is it's very impossible to find some connect with a speaker who is superior to you, who sounds superior to you. So you connect with someone who is like you, who makes mistakes, who is human. And the only way you can show that you're human is by showing, listen, I am also someone who has made these silly mistakes just like you, because there's not a single person in the audience who has not gone through that phase of life. Although, like you said, some might not want to disclose that. It's secretly boxed inside them. So yeah, I use obviously I use self-deprecation in my speech where I'm talking about how I messed up. So not only this year's not only the last speech that I did, but also the previous speech I did where I'm talking about a girl who moved in next door. So that was also self-deprecating. So when I use self-deprecating, something that I make sure that I don't do is, like you said, not cross the line and offend the audience. Like, don't use misogynistic statements. Don't talk about, don't justify bullying. Don't you may use offensive words that will make some people cringe. Don't laugh about the size and the color or things like that. So that's something that I'm very conscious of, and I feel that's very important as a speaker as well. So to draw that line, because you need to be able to become a speaker that the audience will be able to look up to, not look down. And in the same vein, I feel that the audience also have a responsibility to know to which jokes are they going to laugh for. Yeah, because when they laugh for anything and everything, even things that might end up offending some people, that might encourage people to use that type of humor on stage as well. So in that instance, I feel that the audience should take a stance and say, no, I'm not going to laugh for this.
True. And also, like, when you say that, like, when audience laugh, then the person who is making that laugh humor will think that, okay, it's okay to do the humor. Now, this also reminds me of this one, like, when I listen to a lot of humor content, right, stand-up content, I don't laugh for almost all of them. There are a certain humor that makes me laugh. It doesn't mean that others are not humorous, but I don't find it funny. And what I realized was, it is those type of humor that I also feel comfortable sharing. For example, there's a famous stand-up comedian called Russell Peters, a very famous comedian. He does mostly sarcasm and crowd work, but some of his jokes don't work for me much. But when it comes to Kevin Hart or Jimmy O Yang, when I listen to their stand-up, I used to laugh a lot. Because the type of humor they do is more like stories, self-deprecations, and those stuff. And it is those humor that I also like to share with the audience. Now, is it the same for you as well? Like, how the humor that we consume actually impact us as we speak?
I think that's a very layered question. I think it goes beyond humor. It's about what kind of person you want to become, right? Because humor is only a part of the person you are. Yeah. So it's about asking the question, what kind of a person do I want to be? And if you can answer that question for you, and if you can draw this ethical framework around yourself and make it a point not to cross that ethical framework, and I think that, and then it'll work for humor as well. So yes, in life in general, I feel that should be the case. Yeah. So you spoke about these inspirations, Kevin Hart, Jimmy O. Who do you look up to as a brilliant humorous speaker in Toastmasters? Do you have an inspiration?
There are a lot. So I absolutely liked your speech. There's Ravin Dwamendra, who is also my very good friend. So he helped me with the speeches as well. Tarindu is there, Ravi is there. There are a lot. Now, what I realized is it's not just those championship speakers, even a lot of speakers at the club level, division level. Everyone teaches us a lot. So maybe one of the joke that they have made really connects with us. So there are a lot of people. It's not just the champion speakers, but speakers from all range of contesting, from club, area, division. Like I learned things from almost every one of them. So yeah, that's how it is. So inspirations can be derived from almost everyone. So do you have anyone in particular?
I love Aaron Beverly's humor.
Absolutely love
Absolutely love Dhananjay Hetty.
Yeah.
You can't miss him, and Khatani as well. And one last question before we wrap up. What do you do when the audience don't laugh?
Great question. So what I do is I always, whenever I prepare a joke, I always think that the audience won't laugh for it. So I'm always prepared. So that's people sometimes tell me like you are having a stable face, like a monotonous face when you are cracking up the joke, you're not laughing.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I laugh and the audience doesn't laugh, it will be a mess. So that whenever I prepare, I used to make sure, okay, people are not going to laugh for that. So I'll always be ready that people are not going to laugh.
Right.
So if they don't laugh, it won't surprise me. If they laugh, it might surprise me, but if they don't laugh, it won't surprise you. How do you handle that?
I think it came with practice. Initially, it was very difficult and the audience did not laugh, but I think it's also about knowing that fact, right? That there are some jokes that might not land with a particular audience. It might have worked well in division, but it might not work well at the district. So at that instance, it's just about having that resilience to suck it in and move forward. And for me, it came with experience.
Yeah, that's something I think very important, like experience. Now, I think we are almost come to the end of it. So yeah, but before we go into the question and answers, I just wanted to ask you this question: like, if you have to share one thing with the audience, what it would be?
One final message would be to persist and persevere. Because I just watched this video this morning, and I would like to share that with the audience as well. It said, Tupac Shakur wrote more than 500 songs, from which only 2 made to the top 10. Van Gogh made more than 2,000 paintings, out of which only 1 he sold, and that too 6 months before he died. And Glenn Powell, he spent 19 years trying to crack a main role in Hollywood, but it was only after 19 years he got this top role in Top Gun Maverick. So you never know until you keep pushing yourself towards the end. Life will throw these not yet moments at you, but it's about standing up again, pushing past those not yet moments and persisting and persevering in finding if there's anything beyond that not yet moment. If you keep persisting and persevering enough, I feel that moment will come for you. So I urge the audience to persist and persevere in their contests.
So I think that's really important. Like you have to keep contesting without thinking about just winning, because every contest will teach you much. Now, just to add to that, one thing that I really wanted to tell to the audience, which I'm not really eligible to say, is try to have fun while contesting. I don't, but I think if you can have fun with the contest, it will become so easier to contest. Something that I'm really looking forward to learn how to have fun contesting and how to have fun on the stage, and also learn to enjoy the process. More than contesting, I enjoy the process of sitting and writing the speeches, discussing that with people. So try to enjoy the process and also start to enjoy the stage as well.
Right.
So that's, I would like to talk. So with that, I think we can go for any questions. Yeah.
So if the audience can kindly unmute yourself, and if you have any questions, please feel free to throw it at us.
I think it will take some time for them to come up with the questions as well, right? I've been there. I always wait for someone else to ask the question so that I don't need to do anything.
Hi guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Bikum. I'm from team organized Toastmasters. Um, I have a question, which is, how do you decide on what story that you're gonna make it into a humorous story when you're writing a speech? Because every day we come up with different experiences in our day-to-day life, and we've got so many stories. But which one? How do you pick? This is the story I'm gonna use as my humorous speech. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I think we answered that question in the initial part of the podcast, how to find a story. And the best way to go about that is to find a tragedy that happened in your life. Because like I said, this comes from not from me, but from one of the greatest comedians of all time. Charlie Chaplin once said, tragedy is life is a tragedy in close up and comedy in long shot. So if you can find a tragedy is a misfortune, an accident, something that bad that happened to you. If you can find a tragedy and then write that down, you might be able to find the humor in it. But saying that, you need to know what tragedies that you shouldn't be talking about as well. So death is also a tragedy. Now, death can't be funny. So you need to know that, just because death becomes a tragedy, it's too much an emotional tragedy for people to look back and laugh at unless you absolutely hate that person. It'll be impossible to laugh at something like that. And even if you use something like that, obviously it's going to turn against you. So we need to know how to define tragedy for us and use that to write your stories.
So you, on top of that, like once you identify that tragedy or the story that you think funny, what you do is start sharing with your friends, something that you are close with, and if they find it funny, that's a story that you can use for the humorous speech.
So the reason is also, if you look at Rishi's speech, it was a tragedy. Mine was a tragedy. If you look at the last 2-3 years before that, the humorous speech contestants, they were tragedies as well. So go for tragedies. Do we have another question?
We have a
Yes.
question. I feel like, initially I was enjoying and people of love, but then by trying to practice and overanalyze, then the whole process of enjoyment, everything goes off. So what to do for that?
Can we rephrase? I mean, not rephrase, but is there a possibility of replaying or asking that question again? Yeah.
Yes. Now it's a switch off the time to them. Now, there's plenty of tragedy. My life and I am in a field that I listen to people's tragedy, which I can't do for confidential purpose. Anyway, so initially there's a lot of laughter coming out of it, but if I try to practice it, then the humor and the enjoyment goes off for me, and I get bored with the story.
Yeah, I think I got the question. So the thing is, once you have a funny story, when you talk about the story again and again and again, the humor or the funny will not be there for you, because we are saying it several times, and you all know the suspenses, and where the people will laugh, and the funny will dies out for us. And also it will happen the same. It will be the same for people who are listening to the story again and again as well. But that's something that I think, in my opinion, I think we have to go through as humorous speakers, because when we are creating a speech, we have to practice it like so many times. After a point, sometimes we will also wonder whether it's funny or not. So so what you are saying is true, that when we repeat a funny story again and again, it won't look funny to us. But as long as you tell it to a new set of audience and make them laugh, it will be a funny story. So that's my take on it. What do you think?
So yeah, if you become tired of your speech, one of the best ways to overcome is adding to Rishi's answer, because I agree with him. But also, if you can master the art of refining, then you enjoy the process of not being bored with your speech, and your speech remains fresh. Most of the speech remains fresh. When you move from one stage to another. So I suggest you keep, if you're not doing it, I suggest you keep refining your speech every time you move from one contest to another. And with practice, we also need to know what is our line of over practicing, and don't cross that. And that comes with practice, I believe.
True. Now, when you say that, it reminds me of this one as well. Like, for every new contest, whenever I think of a new joke, whenever I add a new joke or refine the speech, I'll be so excited to share it. So I think that excitement will come the more you refine it. Every time you add a new joke, every time you bring in a small element of surprise into your story, you will get that excitement again.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to keep that enjoyment going.
Yeah. And we have a question here. What's your idea about narrating 2 or 3 jokes brought out of joke books, but making an impact on the delivery part to make the audience laugh? I feel it's completely okay. 1 or 2 jokes. I think anyway, Toastmasters give you permission to use 25% of quoted material in your humorous speeches. I know it's for ISC, and I believe it's the same for humorous speeches as well. But anyway, there is permission to use content, but then if you're using it verbatim, I don't know whether you should reference the jokes in humorous speeches. That is something that is technical, we have to look into. But if you are using it and if it is relating to your speech, then I don't think there's anything wrong in using it. Rishi?
Yeah. So one thing that I also used to refer a lot of jokes that is already there. But one thing that I do is I don't steal it as it is. There's a book called Steal Like an Artist. So I try to steal like an artist. So what I do is there's a joke at the beginning of my speech which says, most people who saw me for the first time thinks that I'm an idiot. But if they spend enough time with me, they'll confirm that I'm an idiot.
Right.
It was a joke that I used from one of the stand-up comedy, but I changed the wordings and changed it a bit so that it became mine.
Right.
So he said about like all the girls who looked at me for the first time used to hate me, but once they get to know me, they absolutely hate me.
Yeah.
So I understood that line and I changed it to mine.
Okay. All right. I think that's about it. We have run out of time, and it's time to wrap up.
All good,
yes, I think it's all good. So we'll wrap up. We gave our final message to the audience as well. There's nothing much to say. And from my end, here's what I have to tell all of you. If you have not decided to contest, please do so, because for me in Toastmasters, nothing can help you grow like contests can. It can change your life completely. So please, if you have not decided to contest yet, sign up for your club contest and start writing your humorous speech. And all the very best for this year's contest to all of you who are planning to contest. Rishi?
Yeah, so I don't think I need to say anything more than that. So please contest, and all the best, everyone. And it's my absolute pleasure to do this podcast first time in my life with the absolutely best Farweez. So thank you, Farweez, for doing this. And
it's my honor as well. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Okay.